Olivia Barnes thought her wedding day would mark the beginning of a perfect life. But when her groom, Ethan Carter, confessed to an affair with her closest friend and bridesmaid, Madison Hale, it triggered a deadly chain of events no one saw coming. What began as whispers of betrayal would unravel into a chilling tale of obsession, revenge, and murder, leaving one woman dead and another behind bars. The wedding of Olivia Barnes and Ethan Carter was the kind of event that made the front page of the Willow Creek Gazette. A picturesque estate nestled in the hills just outside town served as the venue. The setting was almost too perfect, an old manor restored to elegance, surrounded by blooming gardens and sun-dappled stone paths. White roses lined the aisle, fairy lights sparkled from tree branches, and a string quartet played soft melodies as guests settled into their seats. Olivia, a beloved elementary school teacher known for her kind heart, had spent months meticulously planning every detail. Ethan, a reserved software engineer with a quiet charm, was seen by most as the ideal match for her. They had met at a local charity event 2 years earlier, and from the outside their relationship seemed genuine and solid. As Olivia walked down the aisle in a lace gown that shimmered under the sunlight, the crowd held its breath. Her smile was radiant, but some noticed the tightness in her expression, perhaps a sign of nerves. Ethan stood at the altar, his face unreadable, hands slightly trembling as he adjusted his tie. It could have easily been dismissed as typical wedding jitters, but something beneath the surface felt off. Among the bridesmaids stood Madison Hale, Olivia's childhood friend and college roommate. Tall, poised, and stunning in her blush-colored dress, Madison had always been a part of Olivia's life, but few knew how close she had become with Ethan. During the past year, throughout the day, small moments raised quiet questions. Olivia seemed distracted, her eyes drifting toward Madison more often than expected. Madison, in turn, appeared unusually solemn, avoiding eye contact with the bride and stealing glances at the groom. Ethan, once engaged in warm conversation with friends and family, became increasingly withdrawn after the ceremony. As the reception moved forward, guests enjoyed dinner and speeches, yet an underlying tension lingered. Unbeknownst to anyone at the celebration, a storm had been brewing. Behind the scenes for months, Ethan and Madison had been engaged in a secret relationship, one that began during a business trip Ethan had taken while Olivia was visiting her parents out of state. Their affair had grown from flirty messages into stolen weekends, and soon, Ethan found himself caught between two women. He'd tried to end it more than once, but Madison resisted. She claimed to be in love with him and believed that he would eventually call off the wedding. Only days before the ceremony, Ethan had broken things off for good. He promised himself that the affair was a mistake, that he loved Olivia and wanted a fresh start. But Madison hadn't taken the rejection well. She hinted at revealing everything to Olivia, even threatening to speak during the reception toast. Ethan hoped she was bluffing. He prayed she wouldn't follow through. As night fell and the newlyweds shared their first dance, the crowd cheered. But for those closest to them, something felt strange. Forced smiles, subtle avoidance, a lingering sense that someone was hiding something. No one knew it yet, but this picture-perfect wedding would soon become the epicenter of a scandal darker than anyone could imagine. The day after what should have been the happiest moment of her life, Olivia Barnes was seen leaving her home in a rush. Dressed in casual clothes and dragging a small suitcase, she climbed into her car and drove off without a word to her family or friends. The couple's scheduled honeymoon flight to Greece was missed. When no explanation was given, those close to Olivia assumed she might be dealing with pre-wedding exhaustion or some kind of emotional breakdown. It wasn't until later that afternoon that the true gravity of the situation came to light. Ethan Carter walked into the Willow Creek Police Department just after 3 p.m., alone and visibly distressed. Officers noted his pale complexion, disheveled appearance, and the way he kept wringing his hands. Without waiting for a formal interview, he requested to speak to a detective and quietly confessed to something that left the room stunned. He admitted that he had been having an affair with Madison Hale, one of Olivia's bridesmaids and her oldest friend. The affair, he said, had gone on for nearly a year. He claimed it had begun during a time of weakness, when Olivia had been focused on her teaching and family responsibilities. What started as a fleeting attraction quickly developed into something far more dangerous. Ethan told detectives that he had ended the affair days before the wedding, wanting to start his new life with Olivia without secrets. But Madison hadn't let go so easily. She'd threatened to tell Olivia everything. During the reception, he said, she cornered him behind the venue's greenhouse, whispering warnings about what she planned to reveal. According to Ethan, he begged her not to ruin Olivia's happiness, but Madison was insistent. She had nothing left to lose, she told him. Detectives listened carefully, noting the fear in Ethan's voice. He claimed Madison had become emotionally unstable in the weeks leading up to the wedding. He believed she might try to harm herself, or someone else. What truly alarmed the officers, however, was what Ethan said next. Madison had stopped responding to texts and calls since the wedding. He hadn't seen or heard from her in over 24 hours. He suggested that she might have done something drastic. Police acted quickly. Calls to Madison's phone went straight to voicemail. Friends hadn't seen her since the wedding night. Concern mounted, and by that evening officers arrived at Madison's apartment to conduct a welfare check. The door was slightly ajar, which immediately raised suspicion. Inside, the apartment appeared in disarray. A toppled lamp lay on the floor. A coffee mug was shattered near the kitchen counter. Most disturbingly, faint traces of blood were found smeared on the edge of the sink and along the floor tiles. Madison was nowhere to be found. What began as a confession of infidelity had quickly evolved into something much darker. A woman was missing. Her apartment showed signs of a violent struggle, and the only person with any answers was the groom, who should have been halfway across the world on his honeymoon. The case had gone from scandal to possible foul play in a matter of hours, and the small town of Willow Creek was about to become the center of a chilling investigation. With Madison Hale missing and her apartment showing clear signs of a violent altercation, the investigation rapidly escalated. Detectives from the Willow Creek Police Department secured the scene, marking the apartment as a potential crime site. Blood samples were collected and sent for immediate analysis. Initial tests confirmed that the blood belonged to Madison. As news of her disappearance spread, the community was shaken. What had started as a quiet local wedding had now spiraled into a missing persons case tied to a scandalous love triangle. Ethan Carter was brought in again for further questioning. While he remained cooperative, his story raised doubts. He maintained that he had not seen Madison since the night of the wedding and claimed he had no idea where she might be. But inconsistencies began to surface. Forensic teams found his fingerprints on a broken wine glass inside Madison's kitchen, something Ethan had not mentioned. When asked about it, he hesitated, then claimed he had visited her the morning after the wedding to try to make peace. He said Madison wasn't home and that he had only stepped inside briefly when he found the door unlocked. Detectives found the explanation difficult to believe. Attention turned to Ethan's phone. With a warrant in place, investigators pulled his call logs, texts, and location data. What they discovered complicated the case even more. Ethan had deleted over a dozen text messages from the days leading up to the wedding. The messages were eventually recovered, revealing emotionally charged conversations between him and an unregistered phone number. The number was later traced to a prepaid burner phone purchased in another town under a fake name. The messages included phrases like "she can't know," "I need to fix this," and "meet me one last time." At the same time, a search of Ethan and Olivia's home turned up more troubling evidence. Hidden deep in a dresser drawer in the guest room was a silver necklace identified by Madison's sister as one of her favorites. Olivia claimed to have never seen it before, raising more questions about Ethan's movements and intentions. As detectives dug deeper into Madison's background, they uncovered a series of handwritten letters in her apartment desk drawer. They were all addressed to Olivia, but none had been sent. In them, Madison expressed remorse, guilt, and fear. She admitted to the affair and described Ethan as increasingly controlling. In one letter, dated just 2 weeks before the wedding, Madison wrote that Ethan had warned her to stay silent or suffer consequences. She had even hinted at feeling watched. The case was no longer a mystery of a woman vanishing. It was looking more and more like a premeditated act. The evidence was mounting against Ethan, yet he continued to insist on his innocence. He admitted the affair and the secrecy, but denied any involvement in Madison's disappearance or harm. Still, police had no body, no direct witness, and no definitive proof of foul play beyond the blood in the apartment. With public pressure mounting and the media circling the story, the investigation pushed forward. The search expanded to nearby towns, forests, and lakes. Every day that passed without a break in the case increased the sense of urgency. Then, 3 weeks after Madison was last seen, a chilling discovery would change the course of the investigation forever. 3 weeks after Madison Hale's disappearance, a hiker walking his dog through a remote woodland trail stumbled upon a foul smell near a cluster of fallen branches. Curious, he approached the area and spotted a piece of dark fabric sticking out from a shallow, hastily dug grave. Alarmed, he immediately contacted the police. Investigators arrived within the hour, sealing off the area and carefully excavating the site. Buried beneath layers of dirt and brush was the decomposed body of a young woman wrapped in a tarp, still wearing what appeared to be a monogrammed bridesmaid robe. The remains were confirmed to be those of Madison Hale. Her body showed clear signs of a violent death. The autopsy revealed bruising around her neck and shoulders, indicating that she had been strangled. There were also scratches and defensive wounds on her arms, suggesting she had fought back. Soil samples and plant matter found on the tarp were consistent with the forest area, which was located roughly 30 miles from Madison's apartment. It was a remote location, rarely visited and difficult to access without knowing the terrain. For investigators, this suggested one thing. Whoever buried her there knew the area well or had carefully planned the disposal. The discovery of Madison's body transformed the case from a missing person investigation into a homicide. With the evidence mounting, police refocused their attention on Ethan Carter. Digital records provided another major breakthrough. Investigators had pulled data from Ethan's phone earlier in the investigation, but now reviewed it again with a tighter lens. GPS logs revealed that his phone had pinged near the wooded area on the night Madison went missing, placing him within 2 miles of the burial site at an unusually late hour. This directly contradicted his earlier statement that he had been home. All evening, police obtained a warrant to search Ethan's vehicle in more detail. Inside the trunk lining, forensic technicians discovered fibers matching those from the tarp found with Madison's body. Additionally, soil particles from the forest were embedded in the car's carpet. These physical traces were small but damning. Combined with Ethan's changing story, his deleted messages, and his connection to the victim, detectives felt they had enough to arrest him. Ethan was taken into custody and charged with first-degree murder. The town of Willow Creek was stunned. Olivia, who had remained mostly out of the public eye, released a brief statement expressing heartbreak and confusion. As the prosecution began building their case, Ethan's defense team painted a different picture. They admitted to his affair and acknowledged his dishonesty but claimed he was being set up. According to the defense, Ethan had gone to meet Madison that night only to find her already dead. They argued that someone else had killed her and that Ethan panicked, afraid no one would believe his story after the affair. Whispers of a new theory emerged, one that shocked everyone involved in the case. Some began to wonder if Ethan really had acted alone, or if someone else, someone close to both him and Madison, had a motive powerful enough to kill. Just as it seemed the case was heading toward a straightforward conviction, an unexpected piece of evidence surfaced, one that would change everything. Just days before Ethan Carter's trial was set to begin, a detective reviewing background evidence noticed a file from the home security system at the Carter residence that had not been fully examined. It contained footage from a motion-activated camera in the garage installed several months earlier by Ethan himself. Most of the recordings showed nothing more than mundane activity: Olivia arriving home from work, Ethan loading groceries. But on the night Madison went missing, the camera captured something chilling. At 2:14 a.m., the garage light flicked on. Olivia appeared on screen wearing dark clothing and gloves. In her hands she dragged a large duffel bag and struggled to lift it into the trunk of Ethan's car. Her movements were methodical and deliberate. Though no audio was recorded, her posture and expression suggested urgency. She moved quickly, double-checked the garage door and then exited. This was the same night Madison had vanished. Investigators confronted Olivia with the footage. She initially claimed she had been cleaning the garage, but her explanation quickly fell apart. Under intense questioning, Olivia finally confessed. The truth, it turned out, was far more twisted than anyone had imagined. Olivia had overheard Madison and Ethan arguing at the wedding reception. She hadn't known about the affair until that moment. Later that night, overwhelmed by anger and betrayal, she followed Madison home. Confrontation turned into chaos when Madison tried to explain herself. Olivia claimed she hadn't planned to kill her, but something snapped. In the heat of the moment, she grabbed a belt from Madison's hallway closet and strangled her. The act had taken less than a minute, but the damage was irreversible. Realizing what she had done, Olivia went home and spent hours thinking through her next move. She waited until Ethan had fallen asleep, then drove back to Madison's apartment with a duffel bag. She wrapped the body, cleaned as much of the scene as she could, and brought Madison's body to the garage. The following night, she drove to the remote forest and buried her alone, using Ethan's car and a shovel taken from their shed. She took care to leave items, like Madison's necklace, in Ethan's belongings and deleted messages from his phone to make it look like he had been hiding something. Her goal, she confessed, wasn't just to eliminate Madison, it was to punish Ethan. She wanted him to feel the same sense of betrayal and loss that she had felt. She wanted his life to fall apart, the way hers had in an instant. Olivia was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, obstruction of justice, and tampering with evidence. Ethan, though cleared of murder, remained stained by the scandal. Public sympathy was limited. Many believed he bore some responsibility for the chain of events. He left Willow Creek shortly after the trial and was never heard from again. The case left the town shaken. What began as a romantic wedding ended in betrayal, vengeance, and death. Behind the flowers and vows had been secrets so deep that the truth only emerged when it was already too late.